for melodic heavy metal. Playing it heavier, louder, raunchier, faster. This is the Signals of Intuition. That was brand new Sons of Apollo right there with Alive from their new record, a melodic hard rock and heavy metal supergroup right there, featuring Mike Portnoy, formerly of Dream Theater, Billy Sheehan from Mr. Big and David Lee Roth, Jeff Scott Soto, formerly from Yngwie and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses, and Derek Sherinian, formerly of Dream Theater as well. You're listening to the Signals of Intuition, your home for melodic hard rock and heavy metal. And tonight on the show, we've got Mr. Jeff Scott Soto, the singer of that band. As I said, he's also been the singer of Yngwie, Malmsteen, Soul Circus, a touring member of Journey at one point, a touring member of Trans-Siberian Orchestra, his own band Soto, Sons of Apollo, and many, many others. So let's get Jeff on the line right now.
And there you are.
Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Good. Yep, it's Brandon.
Very good.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
You know, when I do this, I always like to start sort of at the beginning of you as a musician and then work our way up to the new record and stuff, eh?
Perfect.
So I guess on that note, where did you grow up and how did you get started in music?
Born in New York, but I grew up in L.A. I was 8 when we moved out to L.A., and music's always been kind of, I guess, pretty much the fabric of our lives. My brother and I were always fascinated by music, and we naturally were inclined and in tune to playing and singing and all those different things that influenced us to actually pick it up and do it for real. We had a lot of musicians in the family, a lot of singers, and it was innate. It was like breathing or eating for us. So it was natural for me to actually want to become a performer and an artist. And I think I was 12 when I finally fronted my first band, and it was only by default that I was singing backups and playing keyboard that the singer didn't show up to our first gig, and I was thrust upon the front of the stage, and I was by default the new singer just because the other guy didn't show up, and I was the closest to a singer we had.
So that's kind of the other guys looking at each other going, well, I don't want to sing and I don't want to sing. Jeff, it's your job.
Pretty much. I mean, I was the only one that could sing besides the singer, who wasn't actually that good, but because he was older, he was our singer. I was only 12. Lo and behold, he got fired pretty much after that gig, and I was the singer for every band I was in from that point onward.
And then, so, I mean, I know you primarily as a singer, but you said you play keyboards, right? Do you play any other instruments?
Yeah. I taught myself how to play guitar and taught myself how to read guitar charts and such. I just wanted to have as much information as possible, especially for the songwriting tool department. There's certain songs you can't play or write on a keyboard that you can only do on a guitar and vice versa. So I wanted to be able to have both of those natural intuitions especially when it came to songwriting, or even when I was talking guitar parts or talking parts to another person who's writing a song. I know how to pronounce or announce I need a G7, or can you do a major triad? I needed to know all those little things for my own personal, I guess, my OCD of wanting to have as much information as possible.
Sure.
As a musician. So it all helped.
So did you take like formal singing lessons, or was that just kind of everyone in your family sang and you just kind of picked it up from them?
Pretty much everybody sang. The radio was my only resource of having a coach or a teacher, because I basically just emulated everything I loved and heard. And it wasn't until much later that I realized I should get some kind of training, or even for the sake of knowing how the instrument works, how my voice works, how the whole breathing process. And I did all of that stuff much later after I'd already established myself as a singer. But everything was all self-taught before that.
Oh, interesting. Now, is that kind of, like, I know, like, I myself am a singer, and, you know, especially when I got started, the first thing I noticed was, wow, you get vocal burnout really quick, you know, especially if you're not doing it correctly. Yeah. Was that kind of where you took it, too? Was kind of like, or do you experience much of that, or not really?
Yeah, that comes with anything. It's, if you work out too much, if you work too hard out in the work field or a workplace, if you're an athlete and you go too strong, it's the same process. I mean, you're going to burn yourself out no matter what lessons or what tools you already have knowing how to actually train the whole process of rationing your voice, and it's going to happen. I mean, I know exactly what I'm doing now, and I'm a bit burned out. This is my one day off in between so many dates with TSO. But again, I just know how to not overdo it, especially on days off. I'm trying not to speak too much, and I won't go out and be wild and talking a lot and partying and all that stuff. That's all part of the training is the discipline of when to talk and when not to, on top of how to sing.
Sure. And then, so you're talking about playing your first gig at 12. How does that slowly evolve into, the first band I'm aware of you doing is Threshold, and then later, stepping into Yngwie? Take me kind of through that time period, how you got started in bands.
Well, like I said, it was my brother and I. We were basically every band together growing up. He started evolving. Once he started really getting into hard rock, I hated hard rock for the majority of my childhood. It wasn't until bands like Journey and Toto and Foreigner, they were injecting this white soul into rock music. You had these guys who could just sing. They sounded like R&B crooners. Bobby Kimball from Toto didn't sound like your typical rock singer. He was just a badass R&B guy.
Sure.
And that's when I finally heard something that put me on that side of the fence. Because before that, it was just much as it was Kiss and Ted Nugent and all that, and that didn't appeal to me because it did to me. That wasn't a proper voice. It wasn't proper singing. I grew up in total R&B, soul, the whole Motown world. That's the world I lived in until like I said, until bands like Toto and Journey and Queen came along. So my brother actually started heading more towards the Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and I couldn't stand that stuff. And I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" So there was a bit of a separation between us, but then, because he was my older brother and you naturally you want to follow the footsteps of your older siblings, I just started absorbing it. It started becoming part of my everyday life, and everything I was listening to was basically just seeping from whatever he was listening to. And then next thing I knew, I was into Maiden and Priest and Van Halen and all that stuff too. And so now all of a sudden I had this new injection of influence thrown into what I already had on the R&B world, and that's why I have probably the most confusing career in show business, because one minute I'm doing R&B funk and the next minute I'm doing metal.
Yep, it's absolutely true. Looking through your discography, it's like, okay, hard rock, very heavy, like you say, more R&B for sure. Yeah, you're kind of all over the place in that regard, which is nice, though, to have that versatility.
It is great, but you naturally do get, I'm trying to think of the right word, you get blackballed because there are a lot of people don't want to see you doing one extreme or going to the other extreme. They want to kind of keep you in their little pocket of what makes them happy musically as far as genre. And it's changed a lot since I was a kid. I mean, when I was in my 20s, it was taboo to be able to say that you like the Bee Gees and you listen to the Little River Band and Ambrosia and a bunch of other bands. And I think the one thing that's helped a lot, I think it's helped tremendously, is as much as people can't stand MP3s and the whole digital side of things, when you think of back in the day when I was younger, for instance, traveling, it was a chore to bring a whole box of cassettes if you wanted to bring your music with you. You listen to a Walkman, you have a box of cassettes, and you're lucky to bring 20, 25, 30, and then you had the big boxes of like 60. You had 60 albums with you. Now you have an iPod or an iPhone that you could put, 500 albums in. All of a sudden your diversity changes because you're not subject to the ones that you certainly know you want to bring. You can bring everything and anything. So that gives everybody, I think that's helped diversify people and kind of taken away from that whole, what's that term? The guilty pleasure. Like you'll only bring the stuff that you want to look cool and have, because if somebody opens their case and they see you've got Metallica and ABBA, they would have downgraded you back in those days. Nowadays, you got your iPod and you can have every single ABBA album and every single Metallica album, and nobody's going to people actually look at my iPod and go, whoa, that's cool, you got that. So it's changed a lot since we were kids and since we were younger, that you can actually have different styles and different things in your in your possession, I guess.
Sure. So just kind of talking about the bands now. So talking about you playing with your brother, how do you go from playing with him to taking the jump to Yngwie? Was that Mike Varney who found out about you, or how did that work?
No, I actually I moved to Colorado to join a cover band, and just after high school, my original band Canaan broke up, And my best friend was living in Colorado, and he said, "There's a band out here. They're great, but they don't have a singer. You guys it's a cover band, so you play the whole cover circuit." And they were great. He was, in fact, right. I went out there, joined, and we were doing Kiss and Def Leppard, Van Halen, all the bands I loved. And it was a great first few months, the first few months we were together run. And then all of a sudden the gig started drying up, and lo and behold, we were stealing food from 7-Eleven just to get by. I was staying in my buddy's trailer park home and then bouncing around from couch to couch and going, this is no way to live. I mean, the band's not even working. I might as well head back to LA and see what I can get going there. And I was 18 years old. Before I went back to LA, there was an ad on MTV that Yngwie had left Alcatraz and he was looking for a singer. And with sparing you all the details, I moved back to LA, got the call, met Yngwie, and within 3 weeks of working with him, I was officially in his band. So it was just one of those Cinderella stories that it just happened.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. I know a lot of the people who kind of connected with that whole sort of shrapnel scene and everything else. A lot of it was kind of Mike Varney, just, I heard about this guy, try him out.
Yeah.
So it's funny how you kind of sort of, this is happening, I'm going to seek this out,
Yeah, it was all me. Just it was on a whim that I loved Yngwie's playing. I was a huge Alcatraz fan, so I just threw the dice and I got the gig.
Do you mind if I pick your brain about a couple of your past bands as well, besides Yngwie?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Probably one of my favorites that you did not long after Yngwie was Kuni, the Japanese guitar virtuoso. How did you land this gig?
That was actually Yngwie's former manager got me hooked up with that. I think I got the call from him saying that he and Wendy Dio, I think, were supposed to team up and manage Kuni, and that I should look into this band. So neither ended up managing and working with us, but I started working with Kuni, and he was clueless as to who he should get in the band. He was bouncing around with different players because he was using a lot of name guys like Chuck Wright, and Billy Sheehan was on his first album or second album. I forgot the process.
Yeah, his first album had a ton of stars on
Frankie
it.
Banali, and so for the second one, he actually wanted a band. He wanted a lineup. He didn't want to just have special guests. So I helped him out with that. I was actually just coming out of another band called Carrera, and my buddy, the bass player, was a guy named Doug Baker, and I just brought him with me. I was able to tag him in. And then I knew of another band that was breaking up at that time called Bone Nasty. I worked with a lot of those guys in that band for the longest time, and the drummer was just incredible. So I was able to get him into the band. And from there, I did a session with Dana Strum, and I thought he was great. I loved the way he worked and the way he pulled his resources together to make an album. So I got him in to produce the album. So I was pretty responsible for a lot of between the lineup and getting Kuni going on that album. But unfortunately, musically, it wasn't as up my alley as I was hoping it to be, and for other business reasons, I had to exit.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, because I was always wondering about that. I'm like, was this an actual band, or was it just kind of like, well, I have a lineup assembled, because I've seen, footage of you guys on YouTube, and it was just like, what kind of happened to that band? It seemed like there was a lot going for it, and then just nothing after that record.
There was a bit of a separation between Kuni and the band, and I was kind of caught in the middle because I brought the band together, but Kuni never really made the band feel like they were equal or they were part of the ride. It was more like it was Kuni and I, because I had the closest to having a name, and then it was me and the band, and there was a kind of a wall, there was a division between us that I tried to play both sides, and it just didn't work. And there was a bit of a communication breakdown between Kuni and I and the people that were working for him, et cetera. And so it just got to the point where I wanted to work with people that not only I could actually get along with on a personal level, but even just to communicate with, because Kuni's English was atrocious. It still is, actually.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine that, when you're going in, language alone not being able to, and then, of course, culture and the rest of it, right? So I can only imagine that making for a very difficult band situation.
Yeah.
It's funny, you just kind of look through, the number of bands you've worked with over the years. I mean, Sweden comes up a lot. You see a lot of Swedes in there.
Yeah.
Like one band, obviously one of your most well-known is Talisman. How did you come to join them?
Well, Talisman, it was another beautiful mistake. I was in the band Eyes at the time, and again, I was a bit reluctant. I did the Eyes thing mainly because they put me on salary. They were really sure that they were going to get a deal. I was with them for about half a year, and I was under contract with them that if they got a deal, I would stay with them. So I was more or less in the band out of that, not necessarily because I really wanted to be in the band. It sounds demeaning, and I don't want to say anything disrespectful to the guys, because I love the guys. They're still my great friends today. But I just had a certain level expectation of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be, and I felt Eyes was below that. On the 11th hour, they did get the deal, and I was kind of trapped into signing and moving forward with them. So I made the best out of the situation I could, and that was the first Eyes album. During that time, the record company wasn't giving us any kind of resource, any financial resource. We didn't get any financial advance. The monies were basically credits from the label to the studio, because everybody was tied into the actual deal besides us. They were the ones making the money. We were just delivering the goods, and I still had rent to pay. So Marcel Jacob called me out of the blue. I hadn't spoken to him in a couple of years, and told me about this small album. He wanted to do this little solo album in Sweden, and he had all these songs that were supposed to be on John Noram's second album, but he had a falling out with him, and asked me if I wanted to sing on the record. And I said, I don't know if I can. I'll ask the label if they'll let me do it. And at first they were reluctant, but I told them, listen, I got no money from you guys. I got to pay my rent. So if you want to give me what these guys are willing to give me to record this album, I won't do it. But I got a little kid to support. So do me a favor, give me the release. Just do this record that maybe 500 people are lucky enough to be able to find and pick it up. Nobody's going to know about this. I'm going to do it. It's going to disappear, but at least I can pay my bills. Okay. And they let me do it. And that turned into Talisman. Kind of weird.
It's funny too. I had no idea Jason Bieler from Saigon Kick was in that band. That kind of blew my mind, stumbling on that little fact.
Again, every one of my stories they're all stemmed from sideline stories. Jason and I met Jason through another bass player when I was trying to work on some solo material with another producer, and I was looking for basically to build a band around this material. I met Jason that way. He flew out to LA. He played for me, and I thought he was great, but it didn't work out with the situation. But I always kept his number close. And after we did the Talisman album, again, I expected nothing from it. Next thing I know, a few months later, I get a call from Marcel saying, well, the album is charted in the national charts, not just the rock charts, and we have a top 10 single. Can you come to Sweden so we can do a few shows? Sure. Okay. You have a band? He goes, I have everybody but the guitar player. The guitar player that played on the album has got stage fright. But we need to actually get a guitar player to do this live. And I said, I know this kid. He's great. I think he can pull it off. And that was Jason Bieler. So he was just a live touring guitar player. He was never on any of the recordings with us.
Oh, he didn't actually be on the record. Okay,
right.
I was going to say, because I've got that record. I'm like, I don't remember seeing him. So
right.
That's so funny. Jeez, man, we're quickly running out of time. Okay, a couple quick things I want to ask you, and then we'll hit the new stuff.
You got it.
Takara, one of my favorite records you've done is Eternal Faith. How did you come to join that band? Like, from what I know, were you originally just being a part of demos for that?
It's funny how you say Takara. You're closer to the way you're supposed to say it, because it's a Japanese word for treasures, Takara.
Oh, okay.
Or they say Takara, but we called it Takara. Yeah, that was I don't remember where I was musically at that time, but I certainly was not interested in joining another band. I wasn't interested in being in Takara. So Neil just asked, originally I helped Neil Grusky do the demos just so he could find the singer. He finally found the singer. We got into the studio, and I'm trying to remember, it was so long ago. He brought me in to produce the new singer. Since I was so close to the material, I co-wrote everything with him. But if I could help him produce the singer so that way it could get as close as possible to what I did on the songs. What happened there is Neil then shopped the stuff to a Japanese label. They loved the material, but they hated it with the other singer. They said, we're only interested in it if we can get the version with Jeff on it. And that was a tough call because I was in the middle of something else or other things. And I said, the only way I can do it is if you release it as I'm a guest appearance vocalist. I'm not actually a band member. This is not Jeff Scott Soto's new featured Takara, that type of thing. So that's why even on the album, it was labeled as special guest appearance as a vocalist. It wasn't my band per se. Right.
Do you ever play any of those songs in your sets? Spotlight or Restless Heart or any of that?
I gotta say no. I've got such a vast catalog of material, and not
Sure.
everything is within my wheelhouse of things that I would want to be remembered by or to be performing live. And again, I'd say that with all due respect. I did a lot of stuff that was great for the time, but I frown upon it now. I listen to it now and go, ooh, okay. Let's just get past that.
Sure. And I mean, yeah, a lot of the songs, you're absolutely right, are kind of a sign of the times, you know. There are some great tracks, and there are some
Exactly.
other ones you just go, yep, that sounds like 1992.
Right.
Okay, so take me through kind of the last year of your life. Let's talk about, you know, the new material. I know you did a Soto album not long ago. You've got a brand new album, Retribution. Kind of take me through the last year of your life. You've got a new band, Sons of Apollo. How did all this come together, these last couple records?
Well, Soto is that's my absolute number one priority and has been for the past few years. We did the last tour earlier this year, and we were going to take a little bit of a break because I was already lined up to do the Sons of Apollo thing, and everybody knew that we were going to take a little time off, which was great. But Sons of Apollo, when I was first brought into it, I thought, again, it was just going to be a gathering of these great musicians, and let's see what we come up with. It's now turned into, this is a real band, this is a real situation, and we're absolutely going for it. I've committed all of 2018 for this new band, just because and this is before we even saw the interest in the numbers happening. We made this agreement while we're recording the album that I think we have a monster here. Let's make sure that we're all ready to back it up. In the meantime, I'd already been discussing doing a solo album with Frontiers, and I wanted to push it to release this year because we were talking about pushing it to like maybe 2019 or 20. And I said, this is a perfect time to celebrate our 15th-year anniversary together. Let's release Retribution this year. Next year, we have the new Wet album.
Oh, you're doing a new Wet album as well. Awesome. I love those records.
Oh, yeah. That's done and in the can, and that thing it's ready to come out tomorrow if they did it, but it's not coming out till March now.
Oh, okay, great. I can't wait for
so,
that.
So, yeah, it's been a hell of a busy year. I've never written and sung on 3 albums back to back to back within the course of 4 months. And I did 3 videos with Sons of Apollo, 2 for the JSS album, and 3 with Wet. So imagine 3 albums in 4 months and 8 videos in 3 months. It's been a hell of a busy time.
Oh my God. Well, and at the same time, you said you're on tour with TSO at the moment too, right?
Absolutely. And that's why we had to get the Wet album done when we did it, because I had to get the vocals done, and then I had to get out the suite. We actually shot the videos to the rough mixes because we didn't have a chance to mix the actual songs. The final mixes, we didn't have them done to be able to do the videos. So everything was like push. Now that the album got mixed properly, they just have to brush that onto the video, and everything's done. So it is unreal.
With TSO, are you East or West?
I'm with the West End.
You're West, okay, so you're coming up L.A., Oregon, you know,
yeah.
all that. Okay,
exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're in Denver now.
Okay. And then, so you got Sons of Apollo, so you said you guys are touring through 2018 with that. Do you know, have you guys started talking tour dates for that yet?
Yes, but I'm not privy to announce them yet because a lot of them are still being booked and sorted and confirmed. So at the moment, I have a laundry list of dates that I'm dying for people to see. But it will. I mean,
are you guys going to be hitting North America? Can we expect this show somewhere near Detroit, or
that's the one thing I can.
Do you think? Well, I guess you can't give that away, but North America is happening.
Well, yeah, that's the one thing I can confirm is finally I'm in an outfit that's gonna. The last time I toured a proper tour in the U.S. was in 2005 when we did the Soul Circus thing. And TSO, I can't take credit for that because that's something that's going to happen with or without me.
Sure.
But this is a band and a proper situation that is my situation that I'm a part of, and we're actually going to be touring the U.S., so I'm truly excited finally.
Oh, that's fantastic. So outside of Sons of Apollo, we've got the new Wet coming out. What else does the future hold for yourself? You know, do you think you'll do another Sons of Apollo, more solo stuff, that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to be working on another Soto album in between the Sons of Apollo dates. I've got the guys already. They're going to start picking some stuff out and getting some songs written. So that way, I'm the melody and lyrics guy. So they throw me the music and I finish it. And that's going to be a work in progress the early part of next year while I'm out there on the road. Aside of that, like I said, the new Wet album comes out. And unfortunately, there won't be any dates, any other live dates outside of Sons of Apollo because I'm just going to be too busy and I don't want to spread myself too thinly and and have the live performances suffer because I'm just singing too much.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I kind of had to choose my battles, and next year that battle will just be Sons of Apollo.
Right. Well, hopefully you guys do hit somewhere in the area. I'd love to finally see you properly in a band situation. I've seen you with TSO, but never in a band, because like you say, I know you do a lot of your touring overseas.
Right. Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, Jeff, I know you're busy. I want to let you run. So thanks so much for taking the time out to do this interview. But I just want to say thanks for all the awesome music and that influence over the years.
That's fantastic. That's fabulous. Thank you, man.
All right. Thanks so much. I'll let you get going, and best of luck out there. Hope I get to catch you next year.
All right, brother. See you soon.
All right. I'll see you. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.